Rajesh? Oh.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Before we begin, on behalf of the organisers, I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping remarks. For this particular session, it is a panel discussion. There will be no slides for today, but we do encourage you to get involved still and pose questions to our speakers. Should you wish to do so, please use the Q&A tab found on your console, and we will endeavour to get to these at the end of the session. Should you be having any technical difficulties today, please also use this Q&A tab that can be found on your console, and one of our team will be on hand to assist you. Just moving on to today's discussion, ports and terminals year on year are categorised as one of the highest risk sectors to work in, with employees facing daily hazards from moving vehicles and mooring lines to unloading and loading of cargo. Minimising risk is therefore paramount to smooth, safe and efficient operations. In this engaging panel discussion, we'll look into the latest technologies and trends that are driving improved safety and how they have been implemented at major ports and terminals around the world. Finally, I would like to thank our sponsors, Midstream Lighting, for their ongoing support, not only in sponsoring today's session, but for all of their time and effort in actually bringing together today's panel that you're about to see. So I don't wish to delay any further. I would now like to hand over to our moderator for today, Steve Cameron, who will pick up proceedings. Steve, I hand the floor over to you.
Sam, thank you very much indeed, and good day to everybody, and welcome to what I believe is going to be a most interesting session from the discussions that we've already had. Many of us that are here today will have spent time on terminals, and some of those will have extended into long nighttime visits when perhaps ships operations were not going quite as well as we'd expected. And back in the days of high pressure sodium lights, when they were the predominant application, they always felt rather strange. There appeared to be plenty of light, but nevertheless it still seemed difficult to see, and there were certainly more accidents at night time than during daytime. So today's session will take us through some of these issues. Obviously, risk and safety remains paramount for all terminals, and lighting is a very important part of that. And certainly, with today's technology, there's some great improvements to be had. So let me start. We have all our panelists with us. I will allow them to briefly introduce themselves as we go through the questions when they answer them. So, but to start with, to all the panelists, what does safety actually mean to you and your organization, your role in the companies that you work at? Globally, there's no set definition or standards on what safety in ports and terminals should be. So who'd like to start and kick us off by answering that question?
I'm happy to start us off. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Naylor. I am the Business Development Manager for Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific for Midstream Lighting. We are the very proud sponsors of today's talk. And as we go through, we'll be talking about how lighting has progressed and the technology that is available through LED to making the ports a safer place. But let's start off with, what does it mean for this organization? Well, for Midstream, it's a quest to take down lost time incidents to zero. We want to reduce container damage. We want to help get theft down to zero. We want that all workers and contractors who arrive for the night shift, we want them to go home the following morning without a scratch. And And how do we do that? Well, that's through the technology and through working in partnership with the ports to understand their requirements. To me personally, it goes a bit deeper, and it's about that basic human emotional requirement to feel safe in an environment. And by providing the right lighting, those operating, be it in mobile equipment, cranes, or just walking on the ground, they will feel safe. And when they feel safe, they're going to be more productive. So that's safety to me.
Thank you very much, Mark. Can I ask Christian if you'd like to respond next?
Yes, for sure. My name is Christian Lauer, Global Director of Port and Terminal Development in Morphle & Nickel. As Morphle & Nickel, we are port and terminal planners, so with a fairly big history, 75 years history, and 11,000 plus projects already done. So safety for us always has a high relevance. We cannot plan or design a terminal without looking on safety. It's a must. And as Mark said already, light is an important issue in this because we have to work 24 hours. That's in every port in the world, more or less, I know, a must. You cannot just stop working when it's getting dark. So for us, it has a high relevance. We have to consider it. We have to advise our customer. What already Steve said, that there is not really a global big standard discussion. Sometimes it's hindering us. On the one hand, we always have to see the local standards, which are, as far as you can see, very different if you plan a terminal in Latin, in Africa, in Asia, or in Europe. Everywhere different standards and kind of difficult. But we need to understand them in every project. Of course, we advise our customer also on safety issues and tools which are a bit exceeding the standard they have to do. Then it's a typical management decision how to go. And we are proposing improvements with new technology, better technology, and what we have to do. Steve, if you allow, for me personally, and I like that Mark also said personally, he has a statement. For me, it's a bit here and there when I'm in the port, a pity. We are talking about automation. We are talking about big projects, high investments, automation. And when you see us doing lashing, coning, deconing, and some activities, we still have so many problem areas which we have to solve in the area. So I would appreciate to be able in whatever talk to help there.
Christian, thank you so much for that very focused and valid introduction. Let's move on to Jorge, who is I know has got some interesting points to make.
Yeah, hello, Steve. My name is Jorge Martin. I'm an industrial engineer, and I have spent a 30 years career in the port and shipping environment, always linked to technical position and lately to health, safety, security, and environment. So let me start by saying what I think it's not safety. I mean, to me, safety is not simply the lack of accidents. I call that a lack. I mean, you can be just lucky for not having accident. But it's true that we could say that safety is kind of a perception because it varies from country to country or even from region to region within the same country. And of course, comparing different organizations. And although there has been some attempts to make some standards, we all know this DuPont-Braley curve, where it is indicated an estimation of the maturity level. But I think that talking about safety is more, it's like, well, it's a basic right and a basic obligation at the same time for both employers and employees. But it's a condition of protection, no? It's anticipating the risk. It's a climate of balance and comfort. And I think that talking about safety, we should also mention what it is an accident, because the definition of an accident is an unexpected event. So anything which could be predictable should not be considered an accident. So in that sense, we have the obligation to take care of those predictable situations or events that fall under our responsibility. And then just to finish, I think there is a confusion between being just low compliance and being safe, because probably being safe is going the extra mile beyond the strictly low compliance.
Thank you very much, Jorge. You made some very interesting comments, and certainly the DuPont Bradley curve is a very useful tool for safety professionals. Now, thanks for being patient. Let's move on to Jan Willem and give him a chance to answer this question.
Yes, good day. My name is Jan Willem van der Brand. I'm the Director of Global Market Development, Big Trucks in Hyster Yale Group. Happy to be here today. For me, I think I can underline what Christian and Jorge have said, and from our perspective, we really like to work with our customers to see that we can do two things in this area. One is really reinforce proper operations to the technology that we bring, and second is also improve situational awareness around the equipment and the operations. And those two things I think I will explain maybe further in the next questions. Just personally, also in our company, when you go to our factories and so on, it's very clear that it is a absolutely essential part for efficient operation to be in this game. And I think over the past decades, I've been in big equipment for more than 25 years, the real culture around and the awareness around this subject has been raised, and it's very high on the level of everybody's agenda. So I think it's really critical piece of every operation.
Thank you very much indeed, Jan Willem, and as somebody that's operated large ro-ro forklift trucks on ro-ro ships, then I certainly appreciate some of the comments that you've made, and particularly you've touched on the word culture, and it's all very well to have a safety management system that looks nice and bright and shiny, but if you don't have a safety culture in your organization, then it has no value. So let's, on that note, move on to the next question. So following on from the definitions, is safety a solution that you can buy? Mark, would you like to kick off on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this builds upon what my fellow panelists have already said. For me, safety, it's a mindset, a culture, a practice. It's not something you can buy. You can buy solutions that will enable safe practices, but unless they are trained in, unless they are championed by leadership, by management, and then at the individual operator level, if they don't take accountability for their actions, then you will never have a truly safe operation. So the challenge is, how do you create that culture, that environment where everybody becomes a safety champion? Because it is ultimately for the management to drive, but the individuals to then follow.
Thank you, Mark. Those are some really good points there. Let's move across to Christian, if you're ready to comment.
Yeah, I'm fully with you, Mark. So even if I would say a bit more, yes, safety you can buy also, because you can buy better tools, which sometimes we forget. Yeah, so we talk to customer, and they already think about the automated terminal for a new greenfield, but they have a running one, and there is the light system maybe not so nice. Here and there, the tools a bit old, the not so well maintained equipment, or whatever there is. So you can focus on this, and you can put budget on this. but this does not buy safety. I know that Jorge immediately will go and say this is not safety. Yeah, but you can improve already when you have it in mind in each and everything what you do. Same as procurement, same as in the project. And then you come to the culture. In my experience there, and you might all know all of my CV, that before joining Mofra Nickel, I was on the operations side. So I had quite a lot of operations where I was responsible for. You have to start from the top. When not the terminal manager really goes out and says, I don't know, one day in a month, I'm going out and I'm living my safety. When you see the terminal going without helmet out, yeah, the people will not wear a helmet. Yeah, so you have to live it. Yes, you have to go out and you have to show it as an example, and then you develop the culture. And I think in the industry in total, we are getting much better on this because many colleagues already focusing a lot on this. Yeah, so and doing this very well. But this is the way culture, and only with this culture, you do it. For us as planners, again, it is a question which we usually ask in each and every the design underlying operational procedure definition. Yeah, when you create bottlenecks, it starts already. The reach decker, it's a bit narrow behind, there's no room anymore. When there's somebody standing, there's no escape. So every small decision already, we at least try to create awareness for this. Be aware there might be a problem. You can get this one. You still fulfill all regulations, but it looks a bit like a problem. And then we decide together with our customers about it. So, and this is, in my opinion, also a culture definition.
Oh, thank you, Christian. Let's move on to Jorge.
Well, definitely, safety is not something you can just buy. I mean, safety is something you build and you develop every day. Maybe you can buy isolated elements which will facilitate or will contribute to that level of safety. But safety is a complex result because it's the result of interaction of many systems and many persons. So no way you can improvise it. I mean, it's like a relationship. I mean, you cannot build, you cannot buy memories. I mean, you need to go day by day with that person. So not even hiring the best HSE manager will guarantee that the next day you are a safe organization. It is something that takes time. And of course, you can only, as when you were mentioning that it's something that goes from top to down, you can delegate the tasks of safety, but you cannot delegate the responsibility of implementing and building this safety culture in organization. That must come from the very top.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Jorge. And you make an interesting point that you cannot buy memories, and everybody's own approach to safety is informed by their own experience. And no matter how narrow or how wide that experience is, and the role here is to widen people's understanding of the issues more than just their own experiences, so they can keep safe. Jan Willem, how does this apply to you in the big truck environment?
Yeah, it's exactly as the coach said. So we can, provide options to reinforce proper operations. Let me give you a simple example. One of the best inventions in the last century was the seatbelt. It helps, and proper operation is to put on a seatbelt, right? Because still a lot of accidents happen where people wear no seatbelt and the consequences are grave. So there are now options you can buy where there is a seatbelt interlock. If you don't use the proper sequence of getting in the truck, first on the seat, then put the seatbelt, and the truck will not start if you didn't follow that, right? So that's enforcing proper operation. But if the culture is not right, there will be people circumventing that. And if you then do not check the system, you've bought something that inevitably will not work. So the culture to reinforce it is really important. In that technology can help reinforce the proper operation, but there still needs to be accountability and ownership of that. So we have access systems to the equipment where you have a swipe card, and only people that are properly trained for this piece of equipment can drive on it. But if then the culture locally is not that good and they exchange swipe cards and give it to the next guy who's not properly trained, the system will not help you. So you'll have to have that culture in place, and we need to work with the customer to say, okay, which system works in your culture to ensure this proper operations. And like somebody, I think Jorge already said, it's different in different parts of the world.
Yeah, and when you get ships or terminals with mixed cultures operating, you have to take that into account. And I imagine that your swipe card system enables you to build up a record of each driver and the way that they're performing, which is clearly another conversation. So thank you all for that. Really interesting. The discussion. Safety is not just a lack of accidents. It's about improving situational awareness. And Christian says safety, you have to start from the top and live it. And that's really so important. Without leadership, then you're not going to make any progress. And Jorge's comment about it's a complex result of you cannot buy memories. So moving on to the next question then, what's the biggest safety trend you've seen in the last 3 years at the ports you've been involved in with regard to technological and advancements? Mark, do you mind if I ask you to lead off?
Not a problem. So obviously representing Midstream lighting, I'm going to say the adoption of LED technology to replace high pressure sodium or metal halide bulbs. The simple result is that you're replacing a yellow fuzzy light with a very pure white 5,000 Kelvin temperature light, which gives clear definition for your operators. So if that's a crane operator or a reach stacker operator, or again, pedestrian on the yard, everyone has got that clear visibility of what is going on in their environment, which is helping reduce the number of incidents a great deal. And then to build on that, it's also about being smart with that technology. So what we see, recently we did an install in the US where we used motion sensors. So it's not just about safety, the trend is now safety and sustainability. So just having the light on where you need the light will keep your operation safe, but keep your energy consumption down. So, one of the trends that we're definitely feeling is that the ports are using safety and sustainability in one, and trying to introduce solutions such as the Midstream lighting solution that can deliver on both fronts. And also, to build on that further, data. And I know that the other panel members will talk about different data, but for us, ports are now really measuring the hours of usage of the lights, the energy consumption of the lights. And what we're seeing with LEDs is that we are saving typically on cranes up to 70% of the energy consumption, and high mast lighting in excess of 60%, while still providing a much better light quality. So, the efficiency versus the operational, it's definitely a very exciting time to be in lighting.
Thank you for that, Mark. Is it fair to say with the older high pressure sodium lights and subsequent changes that they only used a very small part of the light spectrum, which is why you appeared to get plenty of light, but not a great deal of benefit? But with the current lighting options and with LEDs, you're using a much greater band of the light spectrum, so you're actually able to see more.
Yeah, and it actually goes beyond that as well. So typically on a midstream designed solution, you will get an upward light ratio of under 1%, which means that over 99% of the light is on the task area where it needs to be. So you've got that higher light, much more efficient, and environmentally much better.
Okay, so the next time I'm flying over a terminal, if the lights are on but I can hardly see them, then I'll know they're probably yours. Then,
Yeah.
so let's move on. Let's move on to Christian to answer that question.
Yeah, and it's perfect. Mark, you're right. Yeah, so light and LED light for sure is one of the biggest advantages we have now. And you explained already, we can better focus. We can avoid light emission, which in city near operations already is a problem. Yeah, so when you have a high light mass and people living nearby, they don't like to see it. So you can much better focus. All this is perfect. You can switch it on and off. So when you have like in a big parking ground where it's already here and there state of the art, where you just drive through and then the light is following you, it not needs to be always on, but where activity happening, you can have light. This is a good one. Maybe, Steve, you allow me to switch to one question from the audience here. It's a bit related to this because it's a question of automated yard. Yes, you are right with your question. In an automated yard, you don't need any light in normal operation. Yeah. The problem is always when the problem comes. So when your maintenance team has to go in, when your remote control driver has to take over because somehow the container cannot be automatically loaded, and then you have to take over, then you need to be capable to bring in light. So you still need light, and in some areas also standards that you anyhow have to have a small light everywhere, a bit light. So, but when you fly to Hamburg, when you ever, like Steve said, you pay attention, you might see the automated terminals, one of my former hobbies, Altenwerder and Burchard-Kai. And you see really a black dot in this, which is the automated area. But maintenance has to go in, you need light. So this is this one. For the technology, I always say also, I like the amount of smaller tools. We now have vests where we can put sensors in. So these sensors avoid, Jan will confirm, a reach decker driver going backwards. Okay, you can have a camera, but still the driver has to pay attention to this. But when your colleague has a vest with a sensor and you measure and there is an acoustic alarm immediately or whatever you would like, even automatic braking, it stops you. So all these small tools, I think are very, very good. And there are still problematic areas. Think about railway operation. So where still, unfortunately, in some areas, the checker has to go in. And you have moving people in operation, and now they have the sensors. You know where they are, and you have a half automated crane. You can even now let the crane automatically make a curve around your people so that they will not operate over the people. So this is a huge amount of intelligent small tools, which, in my opinion, we all need to use to improve it.
Okay, thank you very much, Christian. And looking at some of the other questions coming in for Jorge, then for container yards, this is from Norbert Scuba on automated terminals that may work without lighting. Does this mean less light poles in these areas? Have you seen examples of that?
Yes, absolutely true. And that is a consequence, of course, of what we have been talking before, and a consequence of automation. I mean, lighting is not needed in that area because we have managed to eliminate the interaction between the man and the machine. So that is a reality. I think it has been mentioned here by Christian, the case of Hamburg. So this is not something that will come in the future, but it is already a reality. And I would also connect this question with the previous question about the safety trends. I think we are making more use of simulation software. I mean, in the past, probably we have to guess how it was going to look like a project in the end. Today, we can anticipate that with software, and that includes lighting. So you can see in Mark's computer how the terminal is going to be. So in that sense, I think is also worth to mention.
Oh, okay, thank you. Anything else in the biggest trend on technological advancements from and lighting, etc., from your side, Jorge, before we move on?
I think it's very obvious that the automation is there, but I think that the real good thing is the combination between automation and the simulation. So as I said, there is a less need to guess, not only about lighting, but we can also simulate traffic flows. And of course, everything related to big data, Internet of Things, there is more and more integration of systems which are overlapping one with each other and exchanging information. And then that requires, and we are seeing in lately, that the standardization is a need. And there is already some groups working on this, like DCSA and TIC 4.0, like there has been in these TOC sessions before. So all those.
Okay, Jorge, thank you. And Jan van Willem, from your perspective, which is slightly different to the other speakers in terms of the biggest safety trends, I mean, both in terms of what you've seen with ports, but also in terms of with your trucks.
Well, it is, but it isn't. But because Jorge just mentioned, the whole Internet of Things digitalization piece, and he mentioned TIC 4.0. As you may have seen, I've been on that session as well, because we're one of the founding members, and I'm in the operational council of that, because one of the big things that we've seen in the technology is really the Internet of Things digitalization helping in that. And, one of the things we see a big uptake in is in the telematic solutions that enforce both proper operations and second, the situational awareness, things that I mentioned before, but also, really knowing that we have trained operators when they need to be trained. But when an operator, for example, fills in the pre-shift checklist, in the old days it was a little yellow paper and he would put it somewhere, and he could put in that there is something wrong with the side of the tire. Yeah, how does he know that somebody else will get this little yellow paper and act? Now with this, if you have marked these questions, are my tires okay, as a critical question, the truck will not start. Immediately somebody from maintenance will get a signal that something is wrong with this piece of equipment, and a follow-up is, let's say, guaranteed before things can start. And those are things that are done through Internet of Things and technology. And like Jorge said, if all the pieces of the puzzle talk the same language, the integration of this kind of messages to the overall system, even to the TOS and so on, will be much better. And the follow-up from the signals will be immediately leading to action. That's why TIC 4.0 is so important, so that everybody talks about the same definition in the same way in the system. So just to hook on, and we see that we have had a big growth in those add-on systems, these telematic systems that are around ensuring proper operations.
That's really interesting. It sounds to me as if your truck drivers actually need to actually go through their pre-checklist a little earlier than perhaps in the manual days to take account of the fact there may be things that need to be properly checked, so that you don't have an accident as a consequence of the process that you've just been talking about. Moving on then to our next question, and thank you all so far, speakers. Really interesting to hear your feedback. So the next question is, how important is lighting when it comes to safety in ports and terminals? Usually when an accident happens, the first you hear is, I didn't see it. It came up on me all of a sudden. Lighting always comes up in the concerns one way or another, and we touched on this earlier, but it's so important that it's important we go into a little bit more detail And I expect Mark can expand on that.
Yeah, absolutely. For 12 hours a day, lighting is that critical element of port infrastructure. You could have the best equipment in the world, which will have an element of lighting, but if you've got pedestrians coming out of dimly lit container channels, if you've got other operators coming around corners, you're going to have an incident. Without the right level of lighting, the whole thing falls apart. It's that simple. Take a car park, for instance. If you go to a car park during the day, you can see. If you go in the evening and it's pitch black, you're not going to feel safe walking to your car. And it's the same I would make here. The lighting basically is the lifeblood of that port for those 12 hours when it's dark. And if you get that wrong, as I say, the operations, LTIs, you name it, it's going to be a world of trouble that you enter. And for the cost of a high quality lighting system versus what it will save you, it's an absolute, it's a no-brainer in our perspective. I'm sure Jorge might have a different idea.
Well, let's ask him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, based on experience, I can say that at night working areas are very different places compared with daytime. So when you make an assessment, I mean, you should ensure that you check it on daytime and at nighttime, because I mean, not yet all terminals have, let's say, upgraded their lighting capabilities, so that you can find out, or you could discover that at night is a different animal, no? So, I mean, we as humans and obviously as workers, we are still very visual. I mean, we need light. I mean, and we need that things are eye catching. So it's a very basic concept. And I think lighting goes also together with a horizontal and vertical signage, which I think they help each other. But I would say that not only lighting is needed in the sense which is expressed here, which is basically talking about the container yard, but it is also very important in the different pieces of equipment. For example, a traditional dangerous spot is the ship as a workplace. I mean, when our dockers go on board, they very often claim that there is no light, enough light between the bays. And you can only solve that with a powerful lighting from your crane, from your STS. No? So as I said, we are still very visual, and we probably prefer to see pictures and icons rather than reading text. So sight is something that cannot be underestimated when talking about safety.
Thanks, Jorge, and your comment about lighting on ships, we haven't touched on, and I feel that it's a subject that needs a little bit more attention when we've got a bit more time. So let's move on to Christian.
Yeah, but there's not so much to add, I have to say. Mark already said clearly what it is, and I like very much that you just compare it with what we all experience. Yeah, you drive your car, it's getting evening, it's getting a bit dark, it's getting dark, you have to be careful. Yeah? People in dark clothes you can even sometimes not really see anymore. So all this we experience every day, and this is a logic which we have also in operation. There's a dark area, it's a problem. Yeah? It's getting dark, it's a problem. There is not really color separating. If I understood you right, one is the light, but also the visual element, yes, so which is there. The light can be going with you in equipment or coming somewhere, but there can also be a sign, which is a light, yes. So you immediately pay more attention and you react on it. And I think it's a very, very important tool we always have to have in mind. And you are exactly right, also with light on vessels, yes, this is an area we have to pay attention for. Because there are problem areas due to the nature of the vessel. You cannot make it somehow really different, because you need to pack your containers most efficiently. Yeah, so there are many shadow areas and so on. So it's a natural problem.
Okay, Thanks, Christian. Jan Willem, have you got anything you'd like to add at all?
Well, only one thing really is that, of course, we have light on the equipment, but and the operator always wants to have, let's say, the best vision. First of all, where he's going, but also when you are gauging with the load to make sure you are properly taking the load, whether it's a container or whether you move bulk goods, that you are safely connected to the load. And if you have too strong of drive lights, you see where you are driving, but when somebody comes from the other side, he can then be blinded. So the fantastic balance from the overhead light, bringing, as Mark said, almost like daytime operations, is always appreciated, because you solve the balance issue that I just tried to explain.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's we're doing quite well here, but let's just have a look to see if there are I can see we're getting some questions in from the audience, and thank you all for your questions, which I'll try and come back to in just a minute. So in terms of future technologies on the roadmap that could change the game for ports and terminals, I'm not sure whom amongst the panel are better at horoscopes here, but let's just start with Christian on that one.
I think we already touched one. Yes, automation, of course, is a possible also safety improvement. Yes, so and it must not be the full fancy, all singing, all dancing 5 million TU fully automated terminal. It must just be, I buy my my RTGs with a remote control, which I know there are other opinions in the industry, but in my opinion, is already state of the art. So a remote control is nothing so much out of the blue anymore. It's already, under safety perspective, better. Why better? You might ask, my driver is not far away, but when you ever really have a look at how a remote control driver is driving a crate, and when he gets used to the cameras, he has a much better view on the walking area. He has a much better possibility to see. When you are in the cabin, you all know that you have sometimes the cabin on the other side of the container, so you cannot look on the other side. If you have camera picture on both sides and you are used to working with it, it's better for the safety. So there are many things and technologies coming up which have a safety impact. Fully automation for sure has something which is safe. I'm interested to see the development of autonomous driving trucks. In my opinion, you can see some of the suppliers already very much focusing on this. As a former RTG operator, I like it a lot because it will enable an RTG operator really to automate the horizontal transport. There might be safety, a bit a question we should be aware of. Yes, so what really happening when your truck goes autonomous and mixing with external trucks and so on. This will be an interesting talk. So in my opinion, automation is a good thing. And then again, all these small tools, which you buy, companies like Yard Eye, you can buy already these sensors. You just put to your helmet, you know where your people are, and camera technology much better, visual detection of movement or whatever, alarm system. So all these small tools bring us a lot of more safety around what we are doing.
Okay. Thanks, Christian. Jorge, would you like to
Sure.
comment on future technologies?
Yeah, I have a couple of examples. I would say, apart from automation, like Christian said, I would say that the artificial intelligence is very promising. I mean, if not a reality already, it has a very high potential, especially for some functions like remote handling. For example, I know of a prototype of a project that in the future, hopefully, will be able to release their semi-automatic twist locks on board, which is something today that you have to do from a safety cage or using extension poles, and it's still a very important source of accidents. And these are our self-learning systems, so it will improve with the time. But this certainly would be a game changer. And you would be also surprised how artificial intelligence is being used in other situations. Like, for example, by predicting by the tone of the voice, what is the problem behind a particular situation in a department or in a community or a group of people. There are already very good examples in the industry about this. And I think also fleet management systems, they still have a long way to further development, and they are not so common probably yet. But I would also like to stress that we are talking about future technologies, while today we have some very, very interesting technologies which are not being developed to its maximum capacity. And I am talking, for example, about some system based on inertial sensors, which combined with powerful algorithms, they can be used as a snag prevention on cranes, or even give you advanced warnings or predictions of abrupt movements or dangerous maneuvers, both when you are lifting down or up. And later on, you can use all that data and analytics to learn and to have some conclusion. So it's not only future technologies, but it's also existing technologies which can be developed further.
Okay, so I was hoping that you'd delve a little bit deeper into sort of the emotional side of things, and your comment about AI predicting problems from the tone of people's voices was exactly the sort of thing I was hoping that you'd tell us, because we need to be mindful about how we behave, and the fastest pathway to the brain is through emotion. So my wife tells me. Let's move on to Jan Willem.
Yeah, just to connect to what Jorge was saying about AI, and back to also what we're doing with TIC. One of the things, for example, what is really critical is that we have proper maintenance on everything. And you don't want to do too early maintenance because that drives the cost, but you definitely do not want to be too late. So one of the things that we are checking in the iTerminals project already is to combine the data from the machine with the data from the maintenance shop and from the operations, to really have the AI predict really what is the status of the machine or parts of the machine, to have the proper maintenance done at the right time, to prevent, of course, cost, but also to prevent that you can get incidents because of failures of the machine, of course. So there is a world set through the digitalization to be won, and combining the data from the operations, from the maintenance, from the machine is really where there is a lot possible there. So you get much more early warnings and a better maintained fleet for a lower cost.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Jan Willem. That's really interesting about combined machine and workshop data allows improved maintenance and reliability. And I remember when I started off in the industry and trained on board ships, and we moved to a planned maintenance system that was so light that it used to be referred to as planned neglect rather than planned maintenance. It's good to see how far things have come. But I'll allow Mark to wind up on that particular subject if you've got anything else you want to add.
Yeah, I'd just like to build on that's a very good point that's being made. It's the Internet of Things. It's using different sensors, different parts of the operations to feed in data to a central hub to then make analysis from. It's the define, measure, analyze, improve, and control Six Sigma style of management that enables you to really hone in on the trouble spots and then make the correct changes that you need. Also, something I very strongly believe in that Jorge touched on is that you can spend a lot of time looking to future solutions, but when you do that, you miss out on what's available today. So, in my area, it'd be the equivalent of holding on to your high pressure sodium because you think something's going to replace LED lighting in the next 5-10 years. So it doesn't make any sense to do this, of course. But if you're there future and stargazing, you're going to miss out on the solutions for the terminal of today.
Thank you, Mark. And on that note, as a ex-navigator and now just a sort of relaxed navigator doing my spare time, with your better directional control of your lights, if that reduces the glare coming into port so that us navigators can actually see the channel markers as we come up the channel, that would be a very big help, I have to tell you. Okay, moving on then to our next question. It's kind of a bit of a no-brainer, really, but I think it's important to discuss it because it's one of the reasons why we get involved. How important is safety in improving operational efficiency? I can see a smile on Christian's face, so perhaps we'll start with Christian.
Yeah, we could now make a 3 days discussion about what is efficiency, what is productivity. Yes, and I'm now over 20 years in the industry, and this was the starting of my career. Even what is really efficiency, and what are the benchmarks? So this is why I'm smiling. But it's a very good question. So as we are all working for organizations, and organizations typically have to earn money as long as they are not an administration or port authority. You have to look at this. So it might sound a bit hard, but there's also a commercial aspect and an efficiency aspect. Yeah. What is our biggest value? Our biggest value is our team, is our educated people. So to save our educated people has a big value. And at least in the organizations I was responsible, this was a KPI. So we knew exactly we lose somebody for 1 month in a hospital, what it costs for us. And we don't want. So this, and I know that many of my colleagues in the big terminal operation companies, they're doing exactly the same. So there is a commercial aspect. I don't want to make it too high, but it's good that we have it because it helps you looking for investments in safety, because it is improving your operational efficiency. Because when your people are sick or injured, they cannot help you, so they cannot do the job. So, and this is, in my opinion, to be considered. So, of course, it gets difficult when I could provoke a bit and say, what, the safest one is we don't do any container movements anymore. No accident, we stay all at home. So, but then we will all have our garden and have our apples in our garden, and this is maybe not the direction the world will go anymore. So we have to focus on this, and we have to look on our KPIs. And I always like when efficiency is combined with safety. So same as efficiency is combined with environmental aspects. Having LED lighting, saving some energy use is also a help. You might more focus on the safety, but it's a help. So you spend less energy. So which is ecological.
Okay, I'm going to come back to Mark in just a second. But whilst we're on that theme, I'd like to ask Jorge to comment a bit, because really, I mean, you shouldn't necessarily isolate safety and put it in a little box on the side.
That's it.
This is about a complete mindset, and if you have the umbrella of the culture, starting from the top, then it'll flow down in a positive way to everything, in which which will include safety, and of course will have a significant benefit on the bottom line. But you can probably explain that in better technical terms than I just did.
Well, I don't know, but I think that by definition, I mean, if their operation is not safe, how can it be efficient? I mean, so I think that can be answered very shortly. But regretfully, what we might find is that let's say safety indicators, they are not present in all the dashboards. I mean, when a shift has ended, not always you will see safety related indicators. Maybe you will only see a number of moves or a number of gangs. So I think we should start to include those because, as I said again, if it is not safe, how can it be efficient? I mean, to what price? I mean, we move so many boxes, but to what price? No?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that very succinct answer. Mark?
I agree. You can't move safety from efficiency. Certainly, the core of the Midstream proposal is that you can have it all: safety, efficiency, sustainability, and lower your cost of operation. So for us, we are a great advocate for safety and efficiency. And I agree with Jorge that there should be more KPIs at shift change when it comes to the monitoring and measuring of safety. A successful shift shouldn't just be about 100 boxes being moved. It should be 100 boxes without incident. And I also believe that there should be a positive reward mechanism so that operators who regularly deliver a shift with no incident should be highlighted and acknowledged and rewarded in a way.
Thank you for that. I think that's a really excellent suggestion. And a decade or so ago, when we did a study for a leading global operator on remuneration for senior terminal executives, as well as finding that there was a direct link to the chief executive's pay with the TU throughput. We also established that whilst those that were well paid with big bonuses weren't necessarily the happiest, and it's the ones that were given recognition for what they did in terms of bringing value to the business and making the business safer that made a difference. So I think your comment is completely right there, Mark. Jan Willem, have you got anything you'd like to add?
No, I think I can agree with what is said. I see actually a very interesting question from the audience. I don't know if we have another time, but it's asking why new technologies are taking so long to be implemented, which comes, it takes back everything that's there being said. And I just can give you a very, let's say, nice example. So, for example, tire pressure on big equipment and tire overheating, etc., is a critical, first of all, for efficiency, because your tires cost a fortune, as everybody knows. But it's also, one of these things that can add to incidents. And so, what the uptake of tire monitoring systems has been, let's say, not all over, and it's not standard. And one of the reasons is that if you have this new technology, you get data, but you have to translate that into information, and better yet, in the next step, into action. And that's, I think, where in the very near future, with all this AI and systems alignment and what we're doing with TIC 4.0 will come, where the technology will lead to easily implementable action and immediately bring efficiency and risk avoidance benefits. So I think that will be my summary there.
Okay, Jan, thank you very much. Indeed.
Sorry, can I just jump in on that point as well? That I think it's fair to say that the maritime industry can be quite conservative and technology needs early adopters. And sometimes it's getting the ball rolling, as we say. That can take time. People need to be convinced to move and to invest, and that's not always a quick process.
I sense your frustration, Mark, and having been involved in developing A, lighting products, and B, something that will interest Jorge is a piece of equipment that combines the twist lock with the corner casting. It is a very conservative industry. Now, we are bang on time, but Sam Lighters negotiated 5 more minutes free of demurrage for us. But we've got we've still got something in the region
Steve,
of a number of questions to get through.
Steve, I would like to make one comment to a bit, how to say, defend our industry. So if you allow me, for the circuits, I think for the new technology, yes, we also have to admit that in ports and terminals, what is our world? I leaded medium big companies, so let me say like this, and I managed them, and I always was trying to be humble, because to understand what the character of our decision is, and the character of our decision is number one. Let's say the Burchakai, I was director of the Burchakai, 1,200 people. Ilport, I had 4,000 people, or slightly above 4,000 people. This is in the automotive industry, a medium, big brake producer, I would say. Yes, so we have to see, we cannot compare us with these industries. Yes? So, and then what characterizes us is that the stuff we are buying, we are investing, is fairly expensive. When we buy a key crane, now we are talking about XYZ million. Yeah, so let's say 7 to 10 million, somehow in the range, you will buy a key crane. This is for this mentioned brake producer, is the full automated storage system. So we are moving fairly big money. Not so many people, big money. And the cycles of investment in our industry are also relatively long. So the small technology, easy, we can go in, but when we buy new equipment, we not do this continuously. So there are long cycles. We try to well maintain them because they are fairly expensive. And this means also new technology needs a cycle to get in there. Yeah? So I just want to defend a bit the XYZ 1,000 decision makers, which are doing this and say, hey, come on, we are not slowing down. I think.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. I think we all understand. So Mark, I think we need to be a little bit more patient. But you try that with your try that with your finance director and see if he understands. So we've got 2 to 3 questions left. And if you'll allow me, I'll try and run through the next one quickly by asking Christian to answer it, and then we'll combine the last 2, see if we can just fit them all in the last 3 minutes that we have left. Christian, in terms of safety at the master planning stage, what technologies do you consider to be important for a safe environment?
I would not like to go on technology. I would like to go on the procedure. Yeah, so it should be in master planning. So when you do master planning, we talked already about, you do things too narrow. Yeah, you do things too small. We talked about light masts. Yeah, you can say, I just keep them out. I gain a meter. Yeah, so but then you later understand, hoopsala, my maintenance team has to go in, and I have no light. Yeah, so what can I do now? Yeah, so it is in the procedure of master planning, safety need to be addressed. But of course there are different cultures also. When we plan a terminal in US, for example, we have to admit that turning curves for trucks are fairly big. But it is like they are when you see a US road truck, yes, and you see a Chinese road truck, they are fairly compact. Yes, so yes, they are just bigger and they need a bigger curve. Yes, so they are, and we do this always. We look on the local situation, on the local culture, the standards. We try to improve the standards. And we try to influence with safety the underlying operational procedure. On top of it comes the master plan. So when you have the the operation procedure, then you know what you want to do, and then comes the technology, of course. And then in the technology side, there can be no question anymore, because when you need light for a greenfield, you need the best light. Yeah, so that's absolutely no one question anymore.
Okay. We're not going to get through the remaining time because we're pretty much out of time. But if Sam will allow, I'll just ask Mark about how ports and terminals balance commercial vis safety when procuring. I mean, what sort of issues do you find when people are looking at procurement when they're talking to you?
Well, I think we've already touched upon it. A port is a commercial entity. It must make money to exist. When looking at large infrastructure changes, as Christian has highlighted, there is a cycle, and the gestation period is long as part of that cycle. How you balance the requirement for infrastructure change, it's really down to your operational, it's your throughput, it's down to the incidents that you're having as well. We're working on a large project where the HSE manager has basically said, I need new lighting. So now that has become the number one priority. So it's a very complex system that, a port is not just a simple entity. There are lots of competing ends amongst a limited amount of spend. And sometimes it is about where the money really needs to go and how that's measured via various KPIs that determines the expenditure. I think perhaps Jorge, from the operational side, might be able to add a bit to that as well.
Yes, I think that maybe the key there is that at the procurement departments or procurement functions, there are real technical people understanding what they are buying and what is the value, and the total cost of ownership. And as a technical people, they include the safety in their criteria. So all the decisions are not based just on pure budget or pure money. So when you talk to people who understand your language, I think it's easier to make good decisions.
Okay, well, we have run out of time, and in a real sense, the lights will be turned off if we go past the time that's allotted. Mark, have you got anything else you'd like to add as we wind up?
I think, for me, one of the questions we were going to touch on is, what does the future of safety look like? And from a lighting perspective, the future looks very bright right now. We are working with more ports, more partners than ever to cover the globe. We have more projects come in, especially as we're now easing away from the pandemic. And I think that in terms of a lighting point of view, the future for port safety is very bright right now.
Okay, well, I think as the sponsor of the event, I think we'll excuse you for the pun there. But thank you very much indeed, Mark, for putting this together and for the structure, which has enabled us to have a very well-focused but informed conversation. I think you've done an excellent job. So thank you to you. Thank Christian. Thank you for your insights based on so many years of experience. Jorge, there's a lot more conversations to be had around your subject. I hope we get the chance to do so at some stage in the future. And Jan Willem, thank you for your perspective of what things are like literally at the pointed end of the business. And thank you to all the audience and your great questions. And I'm just sorry that we haven't had time to deal with them all. It's been a fascinating session. Thank you all very much indeed. I've been Steve Cameron, and of course we hand you back to the aptly named Sam Light.
And thank you, Steve, for the very good moderation. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.